Do holes in your schedule freak you out? Or do they make you feel relieved? Let's figure out how you should react when holes pop up in your schedule. Every dentist I work with is different. However, during the past 12 plus years and working with dozens and dozens and dozens of dentists, you start to see patterns. I'm noticing the patterns that lead to more productive and better dentists and the patterns that lead to burnout, depression, and decreased productivity. Dentists will typically react 3 different ways to having holes in their schedule. Let's talk about each of these and if it is the right way to approach it or what you can do to improve your reaction and be more productive when holes pop up in your schedule. The first group of dentists I noticed that when a hole pops up in their schedule or maybe somebody late cancels, for this group I can see visible relief. Now, they may not admit it, but internally they kind of feel happy and are excited when they get a break. Now, I can kind of understand if it's a really complicated procedure or a really difficult patient, but this should not be the normal feeling that you feel. If it is, I think you need some self-reflection because the dentists that have this feeling when there are holes in their schedule are the dentists that are unproductive. They are slow to grow their clinical skills. They don't take on new things. They are afraid of talking to people. They don't like any kind of difficult conversation. And these are the types of dentists where even at a minimum pay, they are just not productive for the office. I see this a lot right out of school and within the first several years of practicing. And it doesn't matter how little you pay these type of dentists, they will not help your practice at all. So if you have hired one of these, I would have a frank conversation and move on as quickly as possible. Or if you are one of these types of dentists, I think you need to sit down and have some self-reflection and find a way to snap yourself back into a much healthier and productive state. Now, let's look at group number 2. In this group, I would describe them as reacting indifferent to holes in their schedule. If it's full, empty, they just don't really care. And they tend to be somewhat disconnected and not engaged in what they are doing that day or even in general. This indifference leads to burnout over time and a lack of engagement during work. It leads to frustration, depression, anxiety, and not enjoying the field of dentistry. These people tend to look at their day and problems or issues throughout the day as major inconveniences to them, and they don't really handle it very well. They don't progress, and while they may be able to get away with this level of indifference for a while, over time they lack progression, and not being engaged in what you do will never end well. It will lead to trouble at home, trouble at finances. It has far-reaching effects throughout their life. I often see this a fair amount in dentists after they've been practicing 10 or more years. Once they know enough to coast through a day, they stop learning, stop progressing, and stop caring. The stagnation, I feel, leads to midlife crises and acting out and all sorts of different problems. Not being engaged in what you do, not caring, and not progressing is a guaranteed recipe for failure over time. If you fall into one of these first 2 categories, it's not the end of the world. In fact, probably everyone falls into these 2 categories at some point in their career, but the key is recognizing it and getting out of it. Now let's talk about the third group and the pros and cons of how they react. This group, when there is a hole or last-minute cancellation, they find themselves not being completely busy, they start to freak out. They get stressed, maybe a little anxious. They start to let their mind enter into doomsday scenarios with things like, I'm not being productive, I'm never gonna make enough money, why don't I have more new patients? Is my practice gonna fall apart or fail? Look at all these people around me that I am paying and they are not working. Being concerned and aware when there are holes and openings in the schedule is absolutely the right mentality to have compared to the other 2 options. However, most of the dentists in this category that I interact with tend to be the kind to freak out, and their reactions during these situations are more harmful than helpful. They tend to do things that are rash, make decisions and demands of their team that don't always make a lot of sense and are purely based out of panic to try to fill the schedule. Well, yes, it is great to fill the schedule, but you shouldn't be harassing, losing your patience, and stressed if there is an opening. You need a little more composure and a little better perspective than that. So whatever category you fall in and however you react, you need to make a game plan of what to do when there are holes in your schedule or downtime in your practice. This is a healthy exercise for everyone. And I find that this removes a lot of the stress when there are holes because you know exactly what to do and exactly what your team should do. Step number 1 is to do things that will try and fill your schedule right now. This could be communicating with the hygienist or people in the front to let everyone know that there is extra time in a couple hours. And if any work or any concerns or needs happen, you have the time to fill it today. When you're doing your exams, make sure to research if they have any work that needs to be done, or maybe if someone is coming in for a cleaning around the same time as your hole, maybe their husband or children need work, and you could try to get them in to fill their schedule. Your first actions should be specific actions that lead to filling the hole. There are a variety of things that could be done, so I would recommend coming up and making a list of all the productive things that could fill your hole that day. Step 2, you should do things that make a future production easier. Despite your best efforts, you're going to have holes that you may not be able to fill, so the next thing you should do are things that will make your life easier and enable you to produce more and produce more efficiently in the future. An example would be training your team and improving their skills. It could be improving your setups, making sure things are very efficient. Make a list for step number 2 of all the things that would make your production life easier in the future. Then step number 3, this is the area where you're going to put things that just make your life easier. One example could be catching up on stuff you haven't done. Maybe you were supposed to dejunk something and you were going to have to do that after hours. You can do it now and not have to be away from home. Maybe you need to catch up on charts. Maybe you need to improve office systems that are not working. Maybe you need to use some of this time for management time where you can go and audit and go through and review spore tests or other things that are needed. Go ahead and for step 3 and map out the potential things that you can do. Make yourself a quick document with step 1, step 2, step 3, and whenever there is a hole, you just start with step 1 and go down the list. And you can be confident that you are using your downtime to the best of your ability, and you don't need to stress because it's going to work out okay. Feel free to share this with your team as well so that they know exactly what to do. Feel free to stress the importance of filling the doctor's schedule, and downtime obviously is not good. It is definitely appropriate to be concerned and make sure everyone has some level of urgency, but what you can't do that it's so common to turn completely irrational, lose your patience, fly off the handle, and start making dumb decisions that create more problems than they fix. It sounds silly, but many dentists do this, and I am often cleaning up the mess after they finish this. If you can make it through that and you still don't have anything to do, another great option is to do some CE. There's plenty of CE that you can do on your downtime in an office that can make a big difference and improve your procedure mix. The greater skill set that you have, the easier it will be to pull treatment from future exams, ERs, or hygiene patients. The better your skill set, the less holes that you will have, and it gives you more tools to fill them and deal with the problems. Some of the best practices that I have and doctors that I work with have a great skill set, and they are very resilient to holes and problems because they have such a great attitude and a great skill set. They can manage all of it. It is not unusual for them to have a hole that was maybe 1,000 in production and they replaced it with something higher in production. It is amazing how often people with this mindset and skill set are able to turn negative things into opportunities for better outcomes than they had in the beginning. This is the type of dentist that you want to be. You want to have the leadership skills to not lose your cool, be a good example, and organize your team in a way where they can help you achieve a better result. I challenge each of you to put together this game plan and work towards becoming the dentist that turns holes and problems into opportunities that lead to better outcomes than you even had in the beginning. This is what you should strive for, and the more you strive for, the more you will accomplish it. I hope some of these tips have been helpful for you, and if you have found a better way to become a high-performing dentist that turns problems into opportunities, comment below and teach us what you've learned. Let's keep working together to make dentistry more fun, fulfilling, and rewarding. Stay tuned for more.